David Lynch is my go-to weatherman, but he also makes movies. Some real weird movies. His filmography is one I've been meaning to explore more of ever since I first watched Eraserhead. What made that movie interesting to me is how it took the premise of a guy is scared of being a father and made something bizarre out of it.
Believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film.
Elaborate on that.
No, I won't.
Lost Highway is not like Eraserhead at all. Its premise is not simple. I could hardly tell you what the premise of this movie is. The more and more I search for meaning in this movie, the more puzzling it all becomes. Where do you even start with this movie? Maybe with the main character's name?
And your name. What the fuck is your name?
The movie follows, sort of, Fred Madison, who is played by Bill Pullman. He's a guy who is great at the saxophone and has a wife named Alice. That's about all I can really tell you about her character. There is this odd tension I feel between him and his wife. The way their lines are delivered reminds me of Silent Hill dialogue in a lot of ways.
This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
She said she was fine by herself.
It's stilted, but it feels intentional and evokes this feeling of unease.
Dick Ron is dead, isn't he?
He is.
The drawn-out party and sex scenes make you feel invasive, and this dialogue makes the world of this film feel all the more alien. Fred tells Alice about a nightmare he keeps having. In the nightmare, he sees someone who looks like his wife in his bed, but he knows that it isn't her. The paranoia in this house is made worse when a VHS that arrives at their doorstep shows a digital camera moving through their home and watching them sleep. Why are they being watched? Outside of being a saxophone player, this Fred guy is pretty plain. There seems to be no clues as to what this mystery is, but then one walks right up to Fred during a party.
We've met before, haven't we?
He is simultaneously being a real freak at this party and on the phone with Fred in his own home.
I told you I was here.
Fred and Alice go home and find no one there. While getting ready for bed, Fred marches into the darkness and stares at his reflection in the mirror. Now his wife is dead, and he killed her. Fred, having no recollection of the event, doesn't change the fact that he's getting the electric chair. And now we are watching a young man get a lot of poontang. This kid, Pete, he's a real good car mechanic, and now he's helping Feach Lamano with his car. Is this the same movie? What happened? I did fail to mention that while in his jail cell, Fred is caught up in some spiritual trip that sees this kid take his place in his jail cell. This bizarre scene can't really prepare you for the fact that the rest of this movie is incredibly jarring from its opening act. But I really like this. I log a lot of my dreams, and having one plot point abruptly end out of nowhere and have a new one start is a pretty common occurrence. This jarring switch-up doesn't just achieve a dreamlike quality, there's some other effects to it as well. The two men, Pete and Fred, are pretty bland characters, at least in terms of what the film focuses on. Fred is a stellar saxophone player, and Pete is the best car mechanic around.
Beautiful. Smooth as shit from a duck's ass.
But we don't focus on those qualities. Instead, this film puts all of its energy towards the sexual escapades and anxieties of our two protagonists. Two different characters in the film are played by Patricia Arquette, making them essentially interchangeable. They are only valued on the surface level as sex objects, and as a means by which the men of this movie can act out their desires. The violent actions of the two men become almost interchangeable as well. Pete is no longer some innocent who was accidentally put in a jail cell. Fred and Pete end up becoming your typical Hollywood everyman in the most grotesque way imaginable. But even with this all said, I still don't feel confident in my own interpretation of this film. This film is anchored by nothing. Many visuals are hard to place any meaning on. The only thing I can confidently take away from this movie is that you should never, ever tailgate someone. Ever.
Fucking tailgate! Ever!
Tell him you won't tailgate.
I don't have any idea what to make of the VHS tapes. Why does the mystery man look like that? What does he even do? Was David Lynch trying to say anything in this movie, or is it just a waking nightmare? That's what's so great about this movie to me. Down to the way it is structured, this is a movie that keeps you in the dark. It's like two raunchy movies spliced together to form a cosmic horror. You cannot ever truly know what this film is. You will never know the full truth about yourself. This reality is dreadfully unknowable.